Thanks so much for joining me, Kristin Esparza, your host on the So She Did podcast. I am eager to get started with today's podcast guest. Today, I am meeting with Lyn Lindbergh. She is the founder and owner of Couch to Active. She's going to tell us a little bit about what that is, and we're going to get into a great discussion. She's also an award-winning author, multiple award-winning author, health and motivational coach, and she also runs her very own podcast. And Lyn, tell us the name of that podcast.
Oh, that is the Health and Fitness Motivation Podcast. Hi, so happy to be here.
Hi, so glad to have you. Health and Fitness Motivation Podcast. And again, she is the owner of Couch to Active. So this is something that I need to hear. I told her right before we hit the record button that I was going to need her to motivate me, because here lately I have been spending more time behind the computer screen on the couch and doing those things. So I am hoping that today's episode is as motivating for the listeners as I need it to be. And I'm sure that with Lyn's level of enthusiasm and excitement about these topics, we're going to have a great show today. So thanks so much for on the show today. Before we get started, Lyn, tell me a little bit about yourself and your story.
Sure. I'm Lyn Lindbergh, and thanks for that beautiful introduction. I am actually here on Bainbridge Island, Washington, which is a ferry ride due west of Seattle, Washington. And I'm a Pacific Northwest native. I called myself a 20-year corporate veteran or corporate survivor, either way you look at it. Mm-hmm. And I came to a point in my life where I, like you, Kristin, was so incredibly frustrated with how hard it was to cram in this fitness thing. Yes. When I had so much else going on, real priorities, real struggles, real important and urgent things,
Right.
I was already beyond just do it. I was already beyond, get up an hour earlier. I was doing all the things, and I stepped back and ended up creating Couch to Active as a way to help that out. Okay. Now, the crazy thing about this is when I published my book, Couch to Active, which is a multiple award winner from 3 years ago, mm-hmm. The day it published, I was a half marathon runner, a distance biker, a triathlete. My health fell apart.
Really?
Chronic illnesses. I gained 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I tell you, I know. And I'm scale agnostic. There's a lot of people who are like, smash the scale. And other people are like, scale is great. And I'm like, scale is what you make it. So, so I'm very, very open about that. Went through just a huge health decline, and then was able to climb out of it with a lot of support with nutritionists and doctors and a whole team of doctors. And now I'm back to teaching 9 group fitness classes a week, personal training, and running my business again. And just so happy to have be back on the regaining my health. Yeah. And now I'm back on the weight loss cycle also after I've regained my health.
Okay.
So there's a little bit about me. Yeah.
I want to ask a little bit about your personal story. So you said you were, running marathons, doing all of these great things, and then your health crashed. What happened? How did that happen?
I had a couple things happen. One is I was pushing too hard.
Okay.
And so I developed what's called fibromyalgia, and it is something that can be born out of stress, mm-hmm. a lot of times, trauma in your past. And I had a lot of trauma in the previous 10 years, mm-hmm. Just thing after thing after. I had 7 people die in my family in 3 years.
Wow.
I got divorced. I got laid off. I started a new job. I was, a victim of a bunch of Me Too stuff back before Me Too existed.
Yeah.
I had just all like check, stressor. And then my body fell apart.
Yeah.
And so, mm-hmm.
Do you think that sometimes people use that? It sounds like you kind of dove into fitness as a way to not deal with those things. Is that accurate?
Ooh, you are too astute. It's scary. No.
So that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the diving into fitness had to do with the fact that it was part of my high achieving checklist.
Yes.
And yep. And part of it, so I would force myself to just do it. Right.
Right.
Another part is my degree and background is in education. And there was a period in my life when I was recently divorced, not quite able to make the mortgage payment, degree in education. And I realized, oh my gosh, if I get a couple certifications, I can get paid to work out rather than pay to work out. So it was this whole like little micro business strategy I had going on.
I see.
And so it was part of how it all started. Yeah.
Got it. So,
Yep.
so you were working in the corporate world though, while you were doing all of this.
Yes.
Okay. So very similar to my life and my experience, where I am people who listen to the show know that I am a corporate sales executive. I still work in the corporate world. I work very early. I work very late. I work weekends. That is the norm. And I too went through a divorce. I was married for 18 years, got divorced, moved from Texas to Colorado. And when I got here, Colorado as being one of, if not the most healthy state, I looked around and people were outside walking. I mean,
yeah.
And for me, having lived in Houston my whole life, where it was very hot, and Houston is also on all of the rankings, one of the fattest cities in the country. So I moved from there to this healthy state, and I'm looking around thinking, hey, this is possible to, get to a healthy point. And I started with what you and I have talked about before, the Pomodoro Technique. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So Pomodoro, in a nutshell, what Pomodoro means is you work. This is beautiful for people with desk jobs where you can kind of control your time a little. You work focused for 25 minutes. You take a 5-minute break. You do it again, take a 5-minute break, do it again, take a 5-minute break. In a nutshell, that's what it is. I first discovered Pomodoro when I was actually pregnant with my first son. We didn't call it Pomodoro at the time. We called it, you're having health issues with your pregnancy. You have to get out of your desk every half hour for 5 minutes. And back then, I remember when the doctor told me, you have to get up and walk for 5 minutes every half hour. I remembered being panicked and thinking, I cannot do this. You don't understand. I have work to do. I can't. I was like, I can't. But I realized I was in so much pain. I had to do this. And then I had this huge aha that Pomodoro, that 5-minute break, became the most productive time. My work time was the most productive than ever because I was focused for 25. I spent 5 minutes moving around. And during that 5 minutes, my mind was doing the typical, like, what do you think about in the shower? Like, and then coming back refreshed and doing it again. So Pomodoro, huge technique to help us. And it keeps you more awake. It keeps you, because the body physically, the blood just kind of pools in your body and the body gets cold and the brain slows down. And so getting up and moving, it helps a lot.
For me, the Pomodoro technique was helpful because I was so busy, and I read something somewhere that said you can do anything for 20 minutes. Anything for 20 minutes. And I thought, okay, I can't do anything for 20 minutes. I cannot. Truly, this is where it started. I thought, I cannot lift weights for 20 minutes. I don't even know if I could bench the bar, right? Like, I don't know if that's a thing. But I can get a treadmill and I can walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. So what I did is I did all of this research. You see people, the Peloton was a trend, super trendy and I think it still is, but when I first started on this journey, and I ordered I did a lot of research, and the Nordic track was a little less. So I ordered this Nordic track. I've never owned a treadmill in my life. Once I was gifted one that sat in my laundry room, and I confess that it held the laundry. So I ordered this Nordic track, and I tell myself I'm going to put it next to my bed so that every morning when I wake up, I have no excuse. Then I realized I'm not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. If I wake up, I've got, 3 children that I have to take here and there. So I said, nope, every night before I go to bed, it's right there. So I gave myself a couple of rules. The first rule was I will walk on this machine for 20 minutes. I can walk as slow as I want, as fast as I want. I can go on the flattest incline that's out there. I don't have to push myself. I'm not working toward a goal. My only objective is 20 minutes a day. I can do this. My second rule that I gave myself was the tennis shoes will stay on the machine. So I had no excuse to be looking for my shoes, my socks. They were literally right there. So that when I would go to bed, I look over and there's the tennis shoes waiting for me on the treadmill. And then awesome. And then the third rule was no clothes on the treadmill whatsoever. I told my children, don't even think about getting near this treadmill with your clothes. They go from the dryer to the closet. That's it. And I started walking for 20 minutes and walking for 20 minutes and then walking for 30 minutes and then running and then increasing the incline. And then before I knew it, I kid you not, within 6 months, I had hiked my first 14er here in Colorado. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a 14,000 foot mountain that I went. I got a backpack. I showed up at 4:30 in the morning and I hiked that bad boy by myself. And in the process of doing this, I didn't change my diet. I didn't change anything. I lost 30 pounds and I wasn't even trying to lose weight. I was just trying to feel better. Yeah. So that technique really, really worked for me. So talk to me about, I love the name of your business, Couch to Active, because I truly was a couch person. I didn't see myself as that because I was so busy all the time. But the truth is I was always sitting. I was always at my desk, in my car, or sitting on the couch with my computer in my lap. So where did the name of this business come from? And how do people go from sitting on the couch to active?
Awesome. The name of the business really just came from, I wanted something painfully obvious. So you say couch to active. It's like, okay, I get it. Cause my husband, he's in the electric vertical takeoff flights. They're building planes that are going to fly, be essentially the Jetsons, the new cars, right? That's what his business is. We go to parties or social events. Well, pre-COVID, but they're coming back.
They're coming back.
And people say, oh, how's the VTOL business and engineering, blah, blah, blah. And then people say, what do you do? Oh, I run a business, Couch to Active. I say nothing else. And usually the whole crowd says, oh my gosh, I need that. Like they already like, so that's really why it was just coming up with a business name that, there's no other fancier story behind that. And as far as going from couch to active, how long you got? No, I'm kidding. I'll no, in a nutshell, because we want to walk away from this podcast with some real tangibles that we can take with us and run with and actually change our lives here today. So one of the first things I talk about is redefining and breaking through all the brainwashing we've had about what fitness is. Yeah. Because today, folks, especially like my age, I'm approaching 50. So if you're in the ballpark of 30 to 70, we have been brainwashed to think that fitness is a gym. It's equipment. It's something we have to buy. It's something we have to pay for. And the reason we've had such strong brainwashing is because those are all the things businesses have marketing budgets for. So that's why they're hitting your social feeds. That's why you're seeing them in advertisements everywhere. And that's why we're not told and reminded that really we are a human being. So I remind folks, you're a human being and your body does not know if it's on a treadmill or on a trail or in a hallway. Your body doesn't care. Your body just knows it's moving. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because every time, when I'm on social media and I talk to my friends who I would consider fitness buffs, or at least more fitness buffy than me, they're always at the gym. And I have to tell you, I never once gone to a gym and felt comfortable. It's just not an atmosphere that I like. I don't know what to do. I've met with personal trainers who have showed me how to do it, and I still don't know what to do. But if I put my headphones on and I go out to a trail, I know what to do. I know how to just walk and to be with nature, and being outside has been incredibly powerful for me. And not to negate the people who love working out at the gym, because great for them. It's just not for me. But thank you for saying that and for giving the listeners permission to find fitness in a way that works for them. So aside from going to the gym or hiking, what are some other ways that you see people integrating fitness into their life?
Yeah, no, then that's exactly it. The next piece is we know this, we already know this, but it's a finding what you love and what you actually enjoy, because there is a huge shipload of data now that shows for you to stick with it, exercise specifically, or for you, everybody listening, not just you, Kristin, but everybody listening,
everybody.
to stick with it.
I need you to talk to me today. I need this.
Okay. You've got to love it, and you've got to give yourself freedom to figure out what you love. And so we talk about breaking through our stereotypes of who does what kind of fitness.
Yes.
Because so much of the time, again, it goes back to marketing. When weight machines were first built, they were first built for men in gyms, size to men, advertised to men, because in any good marketing executive knows you have to define your audience and market to that audience.
Right.
So then the social construct then in our nation, or in the US anyway, is, weightlifting is for men. We've done a lot to break through that.
Yeah.
But we want to break through those stereotypes. And it's when somebody goes and tries something that they don't fit the stereotype. When a 400-pound old man goes to a yoga class full of little tiny skinny yoga women,
yes,
and decides he loves yoga. You don't have to do that, but or it's when somebody in their 30s decides they want a unicycle, and they decide, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Or just anything, stand up paddleboarding. Maybe they love gardening. All of a sudden now they love scrubbing the kitchen floor with gusto. Maybe,
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. When you do what you love and you give yourself freedom to experiment, then it's exciting. And just the fact of experimenting and trying new things, that alone for most people is kind of an adrenaline rush.
It is.
And is exciting. And it's exciting. It makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And that feels a lot better than I got to go to the gym and pay my membership because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Honestly, full disclosure, I need to go to the gym and cancel my membership because I've been paying for it for a while and I haven't been.
Yep. And they probably go, a lot of them get you locked into rates and you're like, well, if you cancel, you'll never get that same rate back. But,
I know, but I really need to go cancel it. What you said, remembering kind of finding our passion in it, that's important too. Yeah. And I remember growing up, I loved roller skating. Okay. I'm an 80s baby here. So I used to love roller skating. And recently it was a weekend and I told my kids, you guys want to go roller skating? And they're like, we don't know how to roller skate. And I said, I do. And they were like, no, Mom, you can't roller skate. Oh, you better watch this, guys. You better watch out. I still have my roller skates. So I put those bad boys on and I was doing circles around the kids. And I thought, why don't I do this more often? And when I was leaving, on the bulletin board, there was a sign for adult skate. So I don't know if there is vodka involved or not, but if there is, sign me up because I am down for whatever that is. I am absolutely going to be roller skating more often because I had fun and it kind of brought me back to being young again and feeling alive. And to your point, it stimulated that part of my brain. This is something new. This is something, and I never would have thought of that until, I was driving with my kids and thought, hey, why don't we go skating? Why
don't we go roller skating? Yeah. And when you mentioned and there might be vodka with it, that totally ties right into that whole concept of ultimately we want to live lives we love.
Yes.
And we want to love our lives. And for 99.9% of us, I have no idea. I just made up that number.
Yes.
But
sounds like a statistic to me. It
sounds like a statistic. So it must be true, right? Yeah. Let's put it on a graph. It'll definitely be believable then. We just want to live a life we love. We know that includes health. And if I am forcing myself to do some exercise thing for an hour every day that I hate in the name of fitness, I'm not living a life I love.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. And we know when we pause and think, we know living a life we love also means being healthy and having a body that'll let us live it.
There you go.
Because when we lose that, that's most of my clients are chronic illness patients, actually. And when you lose it, it's really hard. A lot of things become really hard.
It is. And, this is a little bit more personal. I haven't shared this on the show before, but my mom had a stroke when she was 48. She had a full-blown middle cerebral artery stroke. And for me, I'll be 40 in February. I want to live as much of my life as I can for as long as I can. And I want to be healthy, and I want to be out there with my kids. I want to be able to go to my kids' games and run across the field with them and have fun and do those things. And my dad passed away when he was 49. So he didn't even make it to 50. And so I look at those and I remind myself that, I'll be 40 in February. He didn't live 10 years beyond that. None of us know when or where it's going to happen, right? But if I had 10 years left, if I had 10 days left, how would I want to feel in those days? And the answer is, I would want to feel alive. I would want to feel active. I would not want to, back to the name of your business, I would not want to spend that time on my couch. I would want to spend it living my life. And so I think every day, each of us wakes up and we have an obligation to ourselves, not to everybody else, to ourselves, to live each day as, to the best of our ability, feeling the best that we can.
Yep.
And
exactly.
And you mentioned that a lot of the people that you work with have chronic illnesses. So if one of our listeners out there has a chronic illness and they're listening to this and they, have a real reason, I won't say an excuse, a real reason that, it's hard for me to get up. It's hard for me to exercise. What do you say to those people to motivate them and assure them that you can still do some things? What do you do?
I tell them they need to suck it up and just do it. No.
No. Expecting that answer.
Wait, we got to edit that one out. No. No. Well, and actually, so first of all, when it comes to chronic illness, in the United States, there is a statistic I heard that I did not believe. It seemed so outrageous. I had to look it up and verify it on 3 different sources.
Yeah.
And sure enough, if you are 40 years or older in the United States, 70% of us have a chronic illness.
Oh gosh.
40% of us.
November, December, February. I've got 4 months before I'm in that category.
Yeah. 70% of us have a chronic illness. 40% of us have more than one. Wow. So the concept of half of us have more than one chronic illness.
That's almost half have more than one chronic illness. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all have chronic illnesses, and so many of them, we don't like to talk about, especially a lot of us have these like GI issues, and like I'm a woman and women don't talk about GI issues, but we all know what they are. And I tell you, we've all got these issues. And so to remind ourselves, first of all, we're not alone.
Good. I love
it. We're not alone. We're actually in the majority, and it's the marketing and it's the airbrushed photos that have it wrong.
Yeah.
Because they know that's what sells.
Right.
And so to remind us that, to be a skeptic about what's being marketed to us, and then accept our reality, not as a mechanism to give in or give up, but as a launch pad to know what the next step is for us and where to go from there. Because the problem is sometimes we throw our hands up and say, oh, I'm broken.
Yeah.
And we don't realize, oh, wait, actually, there's so much we can do. And I tell you, all my clients have chronic illnesses, or they're blind, or both.
Yeah.
And the amount of improvement I see, it's proven to me every single day. It's never too late to feel better. It's never too late to feel better.
For the listeners, the first time you and I talked, and this wasn't on, but I do want to talk about this. One of the things that you said to me, and you just repeated it, is that a lot of the people that you work with are blind, and you teach fitness classes online. And I said, how in the world do you teach fitness classes online to people who are blind? And then you kind of explained it to me, and I'll let you explain that to the listeners, how it came to be. But for those people who are listening, there are people out there who cannot see, who get on the computer and participate in online fitness classes, then we can do it too. We can overcome that, the painful hip or the fibromyalgia or whatever these illnesses and ailments are that we have. And there's such a strong mind-body connection. I did talk about this in another episode, such a strong mind-body connection that I think you'll find that when your body starts to feel good, so does your mind. And when your mind starts to feel good, so does your body. So part of it is telling yourself that you can do it. And then, back to my story of the 20 minutes on the treadmill. When I started, I was doing 20 minutes at the slowest pace, at the lowest setting. And I just did it. I just said, you know what, Kristin, you can do this for 20 minutes. And I did. And like I said, before I knew it, I was literally climbing mountains. And for anybody out there who's ever hiked a mountain, when you get to the top, the last 2 or 3 hours are not just walking on a beautiful trail. You're actually scrambling up these big boulders and climbing a mountain. And so if you had told me 6 months before that I would be climbing a mountain 14,000 feet above sea level, I would have told you you were out of your damn mind. But before I knew what happened, before I knew it, my mind said, you can do this for 20 minutes. My body followed suit. And then when my body got stronger, my mind said, you can do more. Okay. And then they continued to work in this cycle of mind, body awareness and wellness. And in talking to you now, I'm reminding myself of that transformation that I went through again and telling myself I did it before, I can do it again. And so for you mentioned you used to do marathons and now you're back on this weight loss journey. How do you get yourself back to, I used to do marathons, I can do it again?
Yes. And for me, I used to do, half marathons, but triathlons and distance biking. Yep.
Hey,
to the runners out there. That's all good. And to me, I used to do that. Now, what do I want to do next? And my goal next is I want to be able to walk hills a lot more. And I want to be wicked strong. So I've been shifting my focus more towards strength training. And one of the things with working with folks who have chronic illnesses, or what I call the ultimate beginner, right? Somebody who's just been out of the game, they're completely injury prone, walking to the mailbox gets them winded. Getting into shape. When you're out of shape, getting into shape is hard. It is harder to get into shape than it is for an athlete to train. And I know athletes are like, oh yeah, look at me. I'm an athlete. I work so hard. But if you think about it, imagine an athlete training. They work really hard and they're working as hard as they can and they're breathing hard. But in the moment, it might suck a little bit or a lot. But they feel strong. Now imagine feeling weak and feeling like you can't and struggling with the mental self-talk, that mental negative talk, and then doing something that feels hard and doesn't feel like it even is going to help you and actually hurts, but you feel like you're doing nothing. So I compare that very beginner person as they are working just as hard. Their perceived effort, their perceived exertion is just as hard as an elite athlete. They're working as hard as they can.
Right. It's like I've read that the ant, for example, is the strongest animal on the face of the earth because they can lift so much more of their body weight than any other animal. So proportionately, they're doing a lot more work than we are. So I think that's that same analogy with the athlete that works this hard. You, from your starting point, are working just as hard. Even though you're not getting to the same level as them, it's the same delta for you.
Yeah. And not only that, sometimes for somebody who has chronic illness or is the ultimate beginner, you're working even harder because you do that exercise and then you are trashed and have to take a nap and you're sore for 2 days. Whereas an athlete does that and then they go home and they clean the house and they cook their dinner and they, do their easy run in the evening,
Their easy 5-mile run. Exactly. Okay, I guess I have to walk to the mailbox tonight.
Exactly. And so that's where we say in that place when you're beginning and it's hard and chronic illness, compassion and having compassion for yourself and where you're at,
Mhm.
that's actually the hardest work of all.
I can see that. I can see that. So when you're talking to
Mhm.
people who are struggling and you're coaching them through this, how do
Yep.
you talk to somebody who um, says, I can't do this? You say, yes, I can. And they say, okay, I'm going to try. And then they try. And in their mind, they failed and they're beating themselves
Ah,
up. So I promised myself I'm going to walk every day this week. And then the week goes by and you've walked the first 2, but you missed the next 5. How do you not beat yourself up for that and feel like it's a failure?
feel like it's a failure. Yeah. Especially if you make a goal and you say, I'm going to walk every day this week, and you walk one day and not the other days, then in that case, if I knew the person didn't walk the week before at all, I'll ask and say, okay, you walked one day this week. That's 100% more than you walked last week.
Oh,
You just
love it.
had you
Yes.
just had 100% improvement here.
Yes.
And that's real. And
Mhm.
then the fact that you're frustrated about it, that's really good, because
Mhm.
your frustration, that tells me you haven't given up on yourself.
I love that. And you said that the
Yeah.
first time we talked, that your frustration with yourself means you haven't given up on yourself. And so,
Yep.
listeners, I want you guys to hear that message. It's okay to be frustrated with yourself, but you've got to move on from that and recognize this frustration. All it does is mean I want to be better. I want to get better. And if we can use that as fuel to move us forward, that's okay. And
Yep.
nobody is perfect hitting 100% of our goals all of the time. That's okay. What's not
Yep.
okay is giving up. It's not
Yep.
okay to give up. It's okay to not get to where you want to be as fast as you thought you would get there, but we have to keep going. We have to keep moving forward.
Yep.
So
Yep.
in that vein, we talked about, you and I, change is constant. Change is something that happens all of the time. You know, I mentioned I moved from Texas to Colorado. You went from the corporate world to the entrepreneur world. People go through divorces. You and I both experienced that. Everybody listening to this show at this point has lived through COVID. So change is constant. How do we adapt our goals, and in particular, our fitness goals, in the face of change? So we've got a schedule, everything's going great, and then boom, life hits you. What
Yep.
happened?
Yep. Exactly. So I think, first of all, just recognizing change is constant is super, super important, because we make the mistake of thinking, a lot of us, I see all the time, we make the mistake of thinking in the back of the mind that I'm going to have this perfect workout plan. And on Monday, I'll do this. And on Tuesday, I'll do that. And on Wednesday, I'll do this. And the thing is life happens, life changes. And that usually causes a dip in our exercise, and we have to replan. And we'll talk about that.
Mhm.
It causes us frustration, but we have to remember, if life never changed, right?
Mhm.
If
How
we figured out,
boring.
I know exactly.
Yes.
So exactly. So one of the things that we do, that graduates of Couch to Active, is we every single month, on the first of the month, we look at our calendar, just like any business, right? And we plan ahead and we ask ourselves, in this upcoming month, what are all the things that are going to get in the way of exercise or normally do? And we start with holidays and special events, because if you add up all the typical holidays, birthdays, anniversaries that the average person has, that's about 30 days a year
Yeah, it's quite
of
a bit.
things that's a whole month
It is. I mean, if you
lost.
think about, we just passed Labor Day. Labor Day usually becomes Labor Day weekend. So one
Yep.
day really becomes 4. And then you've got your recovery day and your packing day before. So now you've got 6. How are you going to adjust your schedule for that?
Yep, exactly. So we look ahead and we say, okay, what are all these barrier days?
Mhm.
And then we say, what could I do on this Labor Day that I would either actually enjoy
Right.
or not dread, right? Because sometimes there isn't like a
That's good. Yeah, that's a good
life,
consideration.
life's not always perfect. What would be that we could actually possibly enjoy, and plan those ahead of time, see them coming before they already come, and just know life is constantly going to change. And that's just one little tool of a whole bunch of tools that'll help
Yeah.
us remember when life gets mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that remembering to keep yourself as a priority, regardless of what's happening in the face of that change, is critically important. And, even if you first thing in the morning, last thing at night, have 10 seconds to yourself and ask yourself what you've done to take care of you today, I think is important. And if we do that, then we start to make those 10 seconds into 20 seconds, into a few minutes, into 30 minutes of really, truly caring for ourselves. And one of the things you said when you and I first talked, I asked you, what is the big takeaway that you want for listeners? And you said 3 words. Do you by chance remember what they are?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. What
are
they?
You are worthy.
You are worthy.
You are worthy. Because part of what I do is I work with folks one-on-one, and we really sit down and talk through in detail about all of this and more, and about just our negative self-talk, our barriers, our, how to sort through what's urgent and important and all of that stuff. And then when it really comes down to it, I realized at one point, most of these barriers come from subconsciously, maybe not even consciously, realizing we don't feel like we're worthy.
Yes.
We think the kids' schedules, or the work obligation, or the whatever, just clouds us up and makes noise in our lives. And we forget that we're there too, and that we're worthy of having this active lifestyle. And the second I have a client who realizes, oh my gosh, that's it, I am worthy of this. I am a human being. This isn't selfish.
Right.
It's not negotiable. This is just science.
Right.
Once they get that, all the other barriers start melting away, and they can just break through so much of it.
And I think that for those of us, especially those listening that live in the United States, work has become a way of life for us. We wake up and work, and, you lived the corporate environment. I lived the corporate environment. Plus I do this and have 3 kids, and all of us live these incredibly busy lives. And we have all of these boxes that we want to check. We're going to get this degree. We're going to get this certification. We're going to get the promotion by this date. We're going to do A, B, C. And for those of us who tend to focus on productivity and checking those boxes, right?
Yeah.
We have a long list of things that we are going to accomplish. We've got a bucket list. But what I would challenge the listeners to think about today is, when you get that promotion, how do you want to feel? When you walk across that stage with your master's degree or your doctorate, how do you want to feel on that day? Do you want to feel drained, or do you want to feel alive? When you take the leap, you take the risk, and you start your own business, and you wake up every morning, do you want to feel drained, like you've poured every last drop of yourself into it? Or do you want to feel like a waterfall or a water fountain that continues to renew itself? And so if we think of how we want to feel while we are accomplishing these things, then I think it becomes a reminder that we need to take care of ourselves so that we can accomplish these things and enjoy them when we do. And I lived much of my life checking the boxes. I have multiple degrees and certifications, and my resume is ridiculous. And I will say, for the first probably 30 years of my life, I didn't enjoy any of it. I was checking the box, and I was doing every single thing that I thought I was supposed to do, but I was never alive and in the moment. And now I will leave my corporate office and I will go hike. There's a little hiking trail right here where I live in Castle Rock, and it's actually, you go up Castle Rock and down.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
1 hour. And I will tell you that when I'm done with my hike, I am better able to perform my job. I am a better mother. I am a better cook. I am a better provider. I am a better businesswoman, better friend, because I took that time to take care of myself. And no longer do the accomplishments feel like something I have to do. They feel like something I get to experience.
Exactly, Kristin, because you figured out what you love, what you enjoy. And so that hour is not a punishment hour. That hour is a serving yourself hour, and being out in nature is just, it makes it so much better.
Yes. Recently, I read
Yeah.
the book Sapiens, and I read his other book called Homo Deus, and it talks
Mhm.
about humans in terms of science and our evolution and being these biological and social creatures. And one of the things that you say, and I've heard you say this before, is we are humans and we need exercise.
Yep.
And you just said it a minute ago. You said it's science. So
It's science,
break
not
that down
negotiable.
for me. Why do you always say it's science? This is what we need.
Well, because it gets it out of the realm of, is this selfish?
Yes.
And I think there are different thoughts and different circles of thought that say, if you're taking care of yourself, especially exercising or going out and jogging or running, or like you said, going to the top of Castle Rock, there's this very, very misguided sense that that is selfish.
Yeah.
And so we have to reconcile that somehow. And we have to make sense of it in our mind in a way. So, because if we don't, then we feel like we're living out of integrity, and we don't want to be selfish. And if we believe exercise is selfish, but we don't want to be selfish, then that just doesn't put us in a good spot to be able to exercise. And we are, I mean, if we just look at ourselves, like we are a meat suit, we're like bone and blood and muscles. And
Yes.
you leave us out in the sun too much, we'll sizzle up and die, and, put us in the Antarctica and we'll freeze to death. Like, I mean, we're humans.
Right.
So,
and we know our children need to go out and play. We know our dogs need to be walked. We know these things. So we need to see ourselves through that same lens of, hey, we need to go out and play too. We need to go out and run. We need to jump and climb and all of those things.
yep. And we need to figure out what to do that we love. Because when our kids go out and play, they don't think, well, I should do the monkey bars for this amount for my upper body strength, and then I should go run around for my lower body. It's like, no, they just play.
Yes.
And that's really for us too, if we're just play.
Yes. I have a 7-year-old son, and he goes to ninja classes. And every week when he comes home on Tuesday, he shows me his muscles. Maybe I need to do that to myself. Maybe I need to go for a run and then come home and flex in the mirror and say, hey, look at my muscles, just like just to remind myself that, hey, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to go back to those days of enjoying living in my body. In my body and enjoying it. And instead of thinking, I need to be in this shape or this hit this number on the scale, I just want to enjoy living in my body. You early on in this conversation talked a little bit about the scale. So tell me, what's your approach to that number?
That number on the scale.
Yes.
There are multiple books written about this topic, tons of research, tons of experts, and it's a really, really hot topic. But I have a couple of thoughts on it. One is the number on the scale I find fascinating culturally in the United States and most industrialized nations. And what I find fascinating about it is that it is a number we protect more closely than our age, our phone number, our driver's license, anything, our house number. We seriously
our social security number. I would rather
that
sometimes than the number on the scale. Let's be honest.
Exactly. And the part of the reason is because our culture has done that to us. And the whole concept of the BMI, the body mass index, and the scale, there's a whole history behind that, where it was like, 100 years ago, employers were trying to figure out how healthy people were or not. And they slapped together some random numbers, well, not entirely, but mostly, and then put people into buckets. And for some reason, the legacy of that whole BMI has never gone away. And so the number on the scale, we know you can weigh a way more and be ripped and powerful and strong.
Yes.
And we know you can weigh less. And there's even, the concept of skinny fat, where you could weigh very, very little, but be actually not in good health. In fact, there's research coming out that shows being too skinny is actually more dangerous for our health than being fat. There's a lot of research coming out. Which is a whole other topic.
Oh, there's one healthy thing I checked. I checked that box.
Yay. Yeah. And And so what I find is that number on the scale really comes down to our own body image and our own self-talk
Yeah.
and how we feel about ourselves. And
Yeah.
so there's so much around body image. There's so much around the body positive movement. That is so complex. But if I had to boil it down to one teeny tiny nugget that we can grab and run with,
Yeah.
is it's this phrase here. I say to myself, I am never going to let a body image issue keep me from living a life I love.
Love that.
So, yep. And I tell you, when I got chronic illness and I gained some weight, that has been very real of
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I have this annual party to go to. I don't fit into the dress last year that I
Right.
wore.
Right.
I will not let a body image issue keep me from living a life I love. I'm still going to that party.
Good for you.
I'm
Good for
I'm
you.
still going to put on a swimsuit. Now, I may not have to put on a bikini and take Instagram portraits and
Yeah.
flaunt myself around. I'm like,
Right.
I don't have to, no pressure to do that unless you want to.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to live my life and do all the things I love, regardless of what a number on a scale says, and regardless of how my monkey brain interprets that number in the moment.
Right. I love that. And I had a very similar epiphany probably about 5 years ago. For years, I wouldn't wear shorts. I had a thing about my knees. My knees look fat to me. And then, as you know, I've had
Aw.
3 kids. And so my legs are not perfect. And here's the thing, I am a healthy weight. I do hike. I do work out. I'm in good, healthy shape. I have no chronic illnesses whatsoever. But I wouldn't go out in shorts because I felt bad about my legs. There's that book that says I feel bad about my neck. I felt bad about my legs. And a few years ago, I thought, I'm ridiculous. I am out here on the beach in jeans. What am I doing? And so from that day on, I refused to stop living my life in pants.
I love it.
Only in pants. I set my legs free. And you know what? I have some cellulite on my legs. I still think my knees aren't the best, but you know what? My knees and my legs with cellulite can run on that beach with my kids, with my dogs, and by God, they can climb a 14,000-foot mountain. And so I let them free. And now I do have Instagram pictures with, I wear shorter dresses, I wear shorts, and there's nothing wrong with my legs. And I think I lived the first 30 years of my life hiding them because of a perceived notion of what they should be. And it's just really, I look back on that. And so for the younger listeners, for the younger women that are listening to this, your kids are going to look back and they're going to see pictures of you. You want to be in the picture. You don't want to be the one behind the camera. You want to be present for your life. And for me now, everywhere I go, I force myself to pack shorts because I am not going to keep my legs behind a curtain. It's just not.
I love that. I love that, Kristin. And and I got to tell you, in my industry, I've had some amazing exposure to behind the scenes of what we see on Instagram and influencers and just all this media and advertising. And one of the most profound experiences I had was I went to a national, it was actually an international fitness convention, but it happened to be in the United States. And I was invited as a part of a group of 300 fitness influencers, bloggers specifically, who were on Instagram. And you've probably heard of some of them. And before the convention, we had a private Facebook page. And so we got to know each other and talked. And I went to all their profiles and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting all these amazing, beautiful, ripped, gorgeous people.
Yeah.
And then I got there to the convention. And I was like, looking around, like, where are all these people? And then somebody would come up to me and they'd introduce themselves. And I would think, oh my gosh, I don't say this, but like, you don't even look remotely like your photos. You're a train wreck compared to your
Yeah.
And it's like, because they're all airbrushed. And even I love it when a fitness influencer like the Betty Rocker just last week, she is known for being like super ripped, super fit. She's really fantastic, actually.
Mhm.
She just did a big old post, and she actually posted the cellulite in the back of her legs from
Mhm.
different lighting angles.
Mhm.
And she's like, it's all about lighting. It's all like, here I am, the fitness influencer, completely ripped. And look at me, I'm a human too. And those kind of posts I love seeing,
Yeah.
because there is no those airbrush perfect photos, they don't exist.
Yes, I love that. And I love, for me now, setting my legs free. I know that my daughter, she'll be 13 in December. I know that she will be influenced by media and by social media. However,
Mhm.
I refuse to believe that my influence will be less than that. I think my influence will be greater than the influence of social media, because I'm her mother and she
Oh
sees
yeah.
me as being this real person. And so part of, in the last few years, me setting those legs free and living my life freely is because I want my daughter to see herself for being as beautiful as she is. And to use your words, I want her to say that she's worthy. I want her to have compassion for herself. I want her to look in the mirror and see, I am a beautiful, strong girl that can do things.
Yeah.
And you know what? We hear people say, yes, we all have cellulite, we all have imperfections. But what if we say cellulite is not an imperfection? It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It is actually normal.
Yeah.
What if we say that women who have had children having extra weight around the midsection, that's not an imperfection, girl. That is normal. It is normal
Yeah.
to have that. It is human to have that. And it is, in fact, quite beautiful to have that. And the images that we're seeing online and that the media is putting in front of us, those are not real. Those are imperfections because they are fake. And one of the things I love watching now are these makeup videos that they do where they show the woman before and then they show after. And I love that because it shows people how real people look. And granted, you and I are not 25 anymore. But and I think it's harder when you're younger, but as we get older, we start to learn the real beauty in people is in the imperfections. It's in the crooked tooth. It's in the knees that I think are too fat. Those knees are strong. Like I said, they climbed a mountain, they carried 3 babies. This is my life. And I'm a whole person and I want to feel healthy and happy. What I don't want to do is focus on the scale. And not to bombard the listeners with too much of this, but I remember I had
it's important.
When I was 20 years old, and I had him. I went for my 6-week checkup. And I can't believe I'm going to say this on the air, but I'll say it. I went to this first 6-week checkup and I weighed, drum roll please, 142 pounds. I grew up in the South. I know. I grew up in the South.
Nothing.
I thought anything over 120 pounds was fat. And I sat in that office with this beautiful baby that I had just given birth to, that I loved more than anything. And I cried because I thought, I am so fat. I weigh 142 pounds. What is wrong with me?
Wow.
And I will tell you, I do not weigh 142 pounds now. I wish I did. But I am much happier where I am now, and looking at now that baby is now a college freshman, and seeing that 142-pound body loved and cared for this child and grew him into a healthy young man and took him on vacations and ran at the beach with him and never missed a football game because I was healthy and I was happy.
Yes.
And that's where I want the listeners to be. And I know that's where you want the people that work with you to be too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard work. And we make progress and we feel good. And then we get bombarded and, we break, and it has to we have to keep building ourselves up because it is, and building each other up.
Yes.
And helping each other realize, like, we are amazing human beings. Our bodies are miracles.
They are.
What they do for us are just absolute miracles. Like, how in the world did I know to grow 10 fingers? Like, this is just absolutely amazing.
Right.
And
it's science.
It's science. I know, exactly. Yeah. And I was actually just texting with my younger sister last week. And I don't know how we got on this, but I sent her one text of me doing a yoga pose.
Mhm,
And I was at my most fit and skinniest.
mhm.
And I sent her another photo of me doing the same yoga pose after I had gained about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just had this big epiphany. The one of me when I was the skinniest and the fit, I remember obsessing, thinking my belly's pooching a little bit.
Yes.
And now the one when I weighed 30 pounds more, I remember looking at that and thinking, I'm beautiful.
Yes.
And it was the mindset work I had done. It was the focusing on health and strength and wellness. And it's just amazing how our minds can make us feel beautiful
Yes.
or feel fat, ugly, and out of shape, or
Right.
feel competent and confident and ready to rock. It's amazing and it's hard work.
Yeah. And I think something you said a second ago, you said, we can support each other in this too. And one of the things,
Yeah.
you follow me on social media, if you listen to the show, I advocate daily for women supporting other women. And so for the listeners out there, if you hear this today, one challenge I would give you is every day for the next month, find a woman and give her a compliment. Your eyes are beautiful today. That color looks fantastic on you. Look at the work that you did today. That was tremendous. I can tell you're strong. Or, find something about somebody every single day for the next 30 days and give back. And when you start to see those beautiful things in other people, you're going to start seeing them reflected in yourself. And we really are, we can't forget, you say we are human beings, right? But human beings are social. We are social creatures, and we do feed off of the energy of one another. And so I do believe wholeheartedly what we give, we receive. So I would really challenge all the listeners, next 30 days, find a woman every single day. She can be a stranger in the grocery store. She can be the coworker that you don't get along with, and give her a compliment every single day. And then turn around and give yourself one too. Turn around and give yourself one and remind yourself how amazing you are, how strong you are. If you have chronic illness, you are still here for a reason. You've got a purpose, and your body is still here and alive and ticking for a reason. And we can all be better if we remind ourselves of those things.
Yep. You're still absolutely valuable, absolutely worthy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you want the listeners to come away with today? We just covered a lot. And I disclosed my 20-year-old weight publicly.
I know.
What was I
didn't
thinking?
Didn't that feel good?
It did.
Good. Yeah.
I hope somebody hears it and is like, is she kidding? And then I hope somebody else hears it and thinks, I feel the same way, and it changes their perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I had an episode once where I shared all the weights I've been throughout my entire life, and it felt so good. But
Really?
that's not my big, oh yeah. And I told my husband later, and he's like, you did what? And I'm like, that's the whole point right there. Your reaction, everybody's reaction. We got to demystify this stupid number on a scale. Okay.
It's just a number. It's not who I am.
Not at all.
Not who I am.
Not at all. Yep. So the big message here, if I could have individuals take only one thing away when it comes to adding exercise in their life, I would say get radically creative about ways you can add exercise that you actually enjoy and that helps you live a life you love.
Love it.
Get radically creative about that. All the other pieces, they'll fall together, but really just really own it. Own what you love, figure out what you love. And if you're like, but I hate it all, like, well, you're a human, your body wants to move, and there will be a way for you that you can move your body that you enjoy.
So tell us a little bit about your program.
Okay. So Couch to Active, there is a online program that's 8 weeks you can take completely independent. And that takes you through the whole Couch to Active book, and takes you through some of these concepts and a whole bunch more. I also teach online group fitness for essentially beginners, chronic illness, and the blind. And I'm a personal trainer, so I can work with folks one-on-one.
All right, wonderful. And how can the listeners find you?
Couch to Active, COUCH, Couch to Active. And it could be TO or the number 2.com. It'll take you there, or you could Google me, Lyn Lindbergh. I'm all over the internet.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for talking to our listeners about the importance both of the mind and the body and our overall fitness. And the message that I really appreciate from you that's different than what we're seeing every single day out there is it really should be about living the best life for us and feeling the best that we can so that we can live the best life for us. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you. So much fun. So great to meet you, Kristin.